Guys, it's Brian with Turp Mechanic. Today I'm going to be doing some maintenance over here on my Kentucky Bluegrass. Today it is January 10th. No joke, January 10th. This is the best Kentucky Bluegrass that I could imagine for January 10th, just about anywhere. For those of you watching, because of the Southern California fire situation, I do live in Southern California. The fires are about 40 miles to our east over in LA proper. It is insane the amount of destruction that has gone on over there, and to a small degree, I know exactly what some of those people in the fringe neighborhoods are feeling, because 2 months ago we had a very large fire right here in Camarillo that came within maybe a mile, half of a mile from our house, and my family and I were nearly evacuated. We had the SUV packed up, ready to go in case the fire hit us. We lost, I don't know, somewhere over 100 homes in our town in that fire, but that pales in comparison to the last I saw was like 10,000 homes that have burned to the ground in Los Angeles proper over the past few days. With all of that said, I feel a little bit silly doing this, but I do know that life goes on, and years in the future, people will be looking for information like this. So I'm going to go ahead and make this video anyway, because it is the time for me to do this. Here in Southern California, Kentucky Bluegrass can look fantastic all winter long, so long as you're getting some water on it. Typically in Southern California, late fall and winter is the wet season, so it actually should be pretty easy to keep water on your Kentucky Bluegrass if you have it. This year it's been very dry, so I've had to irrigate. However, you don't have to irrigate very much, because typically we have a lot of moisture in the air, a lot of humidity, because I'm over here close to the coast. Days are short, evaporation is slow, and even though the grass stays green, it's not growing very much, so it just doesn't require nearly as much water. Kentucky Bluegrass is the most cold hardy of all of those cold season grass types, so even though our temperatures might get down into the low 40s overnight occasionally throughout the winter here in Southern California, the bluegrass just keeps on ticking as if nothing was happening. Now, before I do anything, I do want to show you this up close. I'm kind of calling this Kentucky Bluegrass perfect. However, I know it's not perfect. You know it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. This time of year, we get a lot of grass laying down. So it doesn't want to see how this grass blade right there is standing upright. But a lot of the other blades are laying down. So this is just a sign of sluggishness. It stays damp for a lot of the time because the sun isn't out to dry it off. Coastal humidity, or wherever you live, if you have humidity, it just kind of weighs it down, and there's not really sun to reach up into the sky for, and it's just part of the sluggishness of it. Now over here, this part of the lawn gets sun most of the time, but over here, this Kentucky Bluegrass is really limping along. There we go, let me change the lighting. This grass is really limping along, especially over in this area right here. It's about 3 months straight that everything from about this line and over has not had direct sunlight. Like, no joke, 3 months straight of just shade from the house. Even still, it's still doing pretty good. Now you will notice in here, we've got some lighter shades. Here's a little like flower head of, this is Poa annua. So Poa annua, if you just got spotting of it, all you got to do is do that. I missed a little tiny piece there. All right, now that's gone. There's another little piece right here. So in Kentucky Bluegrass, you don't have a whole lot of herbicidal options for post-emergent control of Poa annua. Let me just set that there. But as you see, it comes out of the ground really easy. So occasionally I just come in here, and whatever the worst one is, I just kind of grab the base of it and pull it out. Over time, it all goes away. Pre-emergent herbicides in the fall is going to stop the majority of this. Here in Southern California, it is pretty tricky to get the timing right because it never really cools down below 55 degrees, certainly 50 degrees at any point at the end of fall or the first part of winter. Like I said, it's January 10th right now, and our soil temperatures have not dipped down to 50 degrees yet, and I don't think they will at all this season, because our next 10-day forecast is still looking really warm. 70 degrees by day, upper 40s to low 50s by night. In any event, I'm actually going to cut this grass. I'm going to start preparing this lawn for the spring. I've only been cutting this roughly every 10 days, and so as you can see, it's still not really overgrown. but I do want to start bringing the height of cut back down for the spring. I want a really tight, low cut like I tend to have year over year. And as I do that, I'm going to start opening up, as I bring the height of cut down, I'm going to start opening up visual space where I can see the thin spots. And if I have any spots that I think are too thin, then I might consider putting just a little tiny bit of seed into these little patches. But like for instance, this patch right here, as you can see, there's still bluegrass trying to spread underground and take over the area. Now, a few months ago, I put some plugs into some empty spots here in the lawn, and I just took the plugs from the lawn itself. So I grabbed a plug and I put it here. So here's one, you can actually still see the fringes of it. It's just like a circle, but it's almost completely covered in. This is an area where there was something like 12 or 13 plugs. And of course the shadow's right on it. But as you can see, it's really filling in nicely. There's only just a tiny bit. This little chunk right here was a Poa annua chunk that I pulled out. So now we can see bare dirt again. So with more time, a little bit of fertilizer, continue adding a touch of water. I don't water it very much, but all of this is going to fill back in, just like it is everywhere, just like it is everywhere else. As I bring that height of cut down, I'm going to open up some of these areas, and that's actually going to let the sun come down. Like right now, it's sunny skies. So what sun there is, it's going to be more likely to hit the dirt and warm the dirt up. So right now the sun is hitting the grass, warms the grass up, but it doesn't necessarily hit the dirt underneath. So the soil underneath stays cool a little bit longer than it would if it was exposed. As the days continue to get longer, as we approach February, that sun is going to warm up that soil to the point where it's not going to feel like winter anymore. And even in the case of like a Bermuda grass or a buffalo grass, the same thing will apply. And these grass types are going to come out of their winter dormancy earlier in the season by cutting everything down to dirt level. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and mow. And then after I mow, I'm going to go ahead and spray a bit of fertilizer on the lawn. This is not going to be a lot. So what I'm doing is I'm adding this cold snap product, which is really good for late fall. In those places like where I live, where things don't really go dormant, you can add this sort of stuff over the winter or in the early spring. It's really good. Basically, this is a mixture of fish hydrolysate and sea kelp. So you could very easily just get a sea kelp product by itself and mix it together with a fish fertilizer, hydrolysate fertilizer all by itself. But this is just packaged together, so you just get half and half. So I'm going to add some of that in here. That's going to help with rooting and basically building the soil biology. Generally speaking, it's just going to make the grass that is there healthier. It's not really going to push any growth. It might perhaps stimulate a little bit of root growth though, which is really good as we go into spring. Pattern interrupt here. Dawned on me in editing that I'm doing this fertilization kick to push extra rooting, because rooting happens at the end of winter, the first part of spring. That is the most natural time of the year for grass of any sort, all sorts, to put on roots. And if we got really good roots in the ground, then everything else works better. I want to take advantage of the most natural time of the year to push the most significant and purposeful rooting that I possibly can. And I'd be crazy to not take advantage of this time of the year. Now, many of you guys aren't going to be doing this in January and February. You'll be doing it later in the year. But if you do want to learn more about my entire root development strategy, I do have a premium guide linked in the description below. And because my Kentucky Bluegrass is actually growing slowly, but it is growing, I'm going to add a little tiny bit of this Total Lawn phosphorus free into it. So it's a 20-0-10, no phosphorus. I've done soil tests on this lawn, so I know I don't need phosphorus. I'm not going to add very much because I don't want to push any excess growth, but I do want to push a little tiny bit of growth, especially in those areas as I cut stuff down and expose some of the bare dirt. I want to give the grass that is there, that is growing, everything that it needs to be able to fill in those gaps as much as possible, because as long as far off as it sounds, January to like June days are forever long. Everything is bone dry and it's way hotter. I want full coverage over that dirt. I don't want the sun hitting the dirt anymore. So I need to be able to push lateral growth whenever possible. And even though it's January, that's not going to stop me from adding it to the grass. I do use a lot of Lawn Bright products on my lawn, mostly because the vast majority of them are organic, OMRI listed stuff, and they all contain a lot of biostimulants. So you don't need to have like a whole shelf full of regular, just standalone biostimulants to add to the lawn. Like I don't have to have just sea kelp sitting on my shelf. I've got it in the product.
I'm gonna have to get rid of that. I might be able to get rid of that just by hand.
I don't need a jug of humic acid because you can find some humic acid in nearly every single one of their products. They are a little bit more expensive, however, so I do have links to some cheaper options that are related. Kind of, you just put the ingredients together yourself. They might not necessarily be OMRI listed, but your grass really isn't going to know the difference. Only you will. As a parting shot, I'm going to give you kind of what this lawn looks like after I've mowed it. But for those of you in California who still have a house and a lawn after all of these fires, then make sure to go ahead and take a look at this video up here in the corner. It's about the start of the spring lawn season for California. I like to call it 1st of February, the last day of January. It's kind of the start of spring. That video goes all into it.